you know.
Let's talk about Stewart.
Yeah.
He died before, he missed the whole thing. What was his, and actually include Astrid in that because, she had a lot to do with their early days too. What was his lasting influence on them?
Style. His lasting influence was style. And Astrid and Jürgen and Klaus come in because principally of Stuart. And Astrid's relationship is with Stuart. So they may not, I mean, who knows what ifs, but they may not have gathered these three very important German friends had Stuart not been in the Beatles in the first place. Stuart was, as John Lennon said, I think to Hunter Davis, though he rarely spoke about Stuart because very few people ever asked him, if anybody, but he trusted Stuart to tell him the truth on things, as he also trusted Paul. And I think George and Ringo as well fall into the same category. And Brian, and I don't know that there was maybe Cynthia, Yoko. These are the upper echelon of people in John Lennon's life, to name but one person, who would speak the truth to him in a way that he accepted, whether it was kind or unkind. He knew that it was the truth and he needed to hear it. So Stuart is absolutely vital to the Beatles in the year and a bit that he's with them. And he's not considered so because the suggestion is always that he couldn't play or couldn't play very well. I don't think that was true for long anyway. He was a beginner at the beginning. I don't think he was a beginner after a year or a year and a half.
Hmm.
Klaus says he was all right as a bass player, and Klaus would know. So I wasn't present and I wouldn't necessarily know anyway. But if Klaus says he was pretty good, then okay, he was pretty good by the end. Um, may not have been good enough for Paul's standards, and Paul's standards brilliantly have always been very high. He caused a problem in the Beatles in as much as he came between John and Paul to an extent. John's leadership of the Beatles, which is what it was, undoubtedly was the kind where people had to sort out their own differences. He didn't come in and rescue anybody. If there was a problem between Paul and Stuart had to work it out. And that's just the way it was. That was always the way it was with the Beatles. But he was vital, and he left in the end of June 1961. But he was still around in spring 62. And in fact, I didn't know this when I wrote Tune In, but amongst the things I found out since that book came out is that when they make their first ever BBC radio broadcast in March of 1962 from Manchester in the north of England, but for national BBC radio, Stuart was there as an observer in the radio
Mm.
studio when they were making their broadcast. So this important moment, only a month before he dies at the age of 21, he's actually there for it. And that was a nice relatively recent discovery.
Oh,
And I mean, had he not died, we don't know what would have happened next, but it's hard to imagine that he wouldn't have played some role artistically or stylistically or something in the Beatles. As it is, they have their first number one record 10 months after he's died. 10 months. And of course, he's a kind of a footnote in the Beatles' story, but he's not a footnote in their lives. He was close to them and they were close to him.